Empo Pule Kolopane's Project Cleanse, Ward 6B, uses chapters 8 and 9 as the primary architectural pivot point of the story, avoiding the expected administration rather than elite forces to protect its secrets. While the physical breach is simple, the psychological impact on the four characters is severe. They are forced to confront the raw evidence of biological exploitation. Internalizing the horror becomes their primary conflict. The struggle is to maintain composure within the cramped interior of the getaway vehicle. The journey moves south from Pretoria along the N1 highway, physically distancing the characters from the lab. Inside the truck, four distinct epistemological frameworks are established: the pragmatist, the archivist, the anchor, and the metaphysical vessel. Locking these four perspectives into the moving vehicle forces the narrative momentum forward. The confinement ensures their individual traumas remain in constant friction. In the enclosed space, these four perspectives begin to align. Their shared isolation turns the act of survival into a collective resistance against the state. Lebo occupies the driver's seat. He navigates the facility as a system insider, exploiting the administrative shortcuts he learned years prior. He understands that the facility's security is a facade. It is maintained by a culture of unchecked, everyday administration rather than real vigilance. Lebo identifies the guards as ordinary citizens, farmers in khaki whose authority is granted by the institution they serve. This drive is a direct echo of his history. In 1976, he was behind the wheel of an ambulance, trapped in a cycle of passive complicity during the Soweto uprisings. In 1990, his pragmatism finally finds a release. This mission is his active physical atonement for the years he spent driving for the system. In the passenger seat, Thando transitions into an active archivist during the breach. She carries a stack of Eurogenetech manifests. These documents use bureaucratic terms like discard and infertile to categorize human remains as mere inventory. Thando sees that the operation is sustained by ordinary clerks and technicians. They facilitate these atrocities by simply filling out forms. This cold data stands in opposition to the ancestral Ndoro shell in her pocket. She is witnessing the systemic scale of a colonial archive designed to erase the individual. Trapped between the oppressor's clinical manifests and the pulse of the shell, Thando must choose which record of history to protect. Her role is to preserve the evidence of the system's banality, showing how bureaucratic systems sustain atrocities through the mundane repetition of paperwork. Kokosi sits in the back left seat as the group's physical anchor. He operates purely on willpower, while his body continues to fail him. He refuses to let his own trauma take over. Instead, he holds his twin brother in the dark, prioritizing physical contact over his own psychological recovery. Kokosi rejects any emotional display, communicating only in the blunt, grounding facts of their immediate survival. His presence is essential to the narrative structure, preventing the story from becoming too abstract as the supernatural elements begin to emerge. Without Kokosi's stoic physical weight, the story's shift toward metaphysical realism would lack a necessary foundation. Kagiso occupies the final seat as the metaphysical vessel. He emerges from sedation carrying the ancestral interference of Nomteto. The procedure at Roodeplaat failed because it inadvertently triggered a supernatural inheritance stored within Kagiso's neural architecture. The awakening is described not as a traditional haunting, but as a frequency, a green-gold pulse of ancestral memory stored in his blood. Kagiso's cryptic murmurs about an island reorient the group's path. These whispers provide the narrative with a new, urgent compass. Kagiso's interior shift rewrites the mission's trajectory. The group is no longer simply fleeing a laboratory, they are following the summons of an ancient archive. When the Bucky breaks down on the N1, the high-speed escape drops into total stasis. The characters are left stranded on the isolated highway. This physical stalling forces the four separate epistemological frameworks to reconcile in the dark. Instead of fracturing the group, the isolation on the highway allows their collective purpose to solidify. By stopping the action, the author makes the internal psychological processing of the characters the primary engine of the plot. The morning brings a mechanical fix, but also reveals a unified narrative trajectory for the survivors. Thando's bureaucratic manifests and Kagiso's metaphysical visions now point toward the same destination. The pipeline of systemic horror leads to the bone clock at a restricted offshore site. The characters are now moving toward a final confrontation with the historical and ancestral horrors waiting on the island.